Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we are discussing what is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, high-tiered battleship to take into today's World of Warships. And that is the Tier 10 German battleship, the Grosser Kurfurst. Now, the Kurfürst actually isn't the Tier 10 German battleship anymore. She got shunted out by the Preußen all that time ago. She's now in the armory for coal. And the GK is one of my personal favorite ships. Admittedly so, it is still a ship that I find myself taking into battle less and less because it's a less and less enjoyable experience with the GK. Now, in terms of enjoyment, my enjoyment levels are determined by not really if we win or if we lose. It's, did we have fun in the process, right? Did we get something done, or were we unable to partake in the match at all? Now, the GK is a ship that I've played an absurdly lot of. It is my second most played ship behind the Yami, and yeah, that says a lot about what I'm willing to put up with. But the GK is an old school brawler. It's not like these newer brawling battleships and brawling cruisers that are just hyper specialized to be a brawler, right? Like the Schlieffen, for example. It's incredibly fast, 35 knot top speed. It's got secondaries that are pretty much at the same range as its concealment. If you want to build into it like that, its concealment's like 12.6. The secondaries can get out to 12.5. So basically, when you are spotted, whatever spotting you is in your secondary range. It's got an absurd amount of secondaries on it as well. It's got torpedoes and hydro, so everything it needs to brawl successfully, and everything that it needs to dictate the terms of its engagement. When you have a ship that's that fast, that stealthy, and has secondaries that get out to that far of a range, yeah, you can basically chase down whoever you want to chase down to get into your secondary range and start a brawl with them. At the same time, you have the ability to leave a situation that you don't want to be in because you're fast enough and stealthy enough to get out of that situation. And then you've got the GK, which is just, a small continent with propellers that's spotted from the moon, because if you want to do a full proper secondary build with the GK, you do have to, go full tilt into the commander skills, and you can't take the concealment skill. Even then, if you do take the concealment skill, your concealment's still so high, your secondary range isn't going to ellipse your detection range like it does with the Schlieffen, or like any of the other secondary ships, like in the Napoli, the Car, the 14th Johann, and the Navarre. All ships whose secondary range is very, very, very close to their maximum concealment range. Doesn't happen with the GK, unfortunately. Now, on top of that, too, the GK has good secondaries, don't get me wrong. It's got a decent amount of them, a good amount of them, but it's not bristling with secondaries like a lot of these newer secondary ships are. Like, they look like porcupines with all the secondary guns sticking out of the ship, right? So, it's detected from the moon, doesn't have a overtly, Spanish galleons worth of secondary guns on it. It's not as fast as a lot of those newer ships. Faster than some, slower than a decent bit as well. And of course, it's a massive target. It's got this huge superstructure on it that's super easy to farm. Its armor is good in a brawl, but it gets the crap chunked out of it at range by anything with decently large guns. And again, it can be spotted at range too because of the massive detection you usually have with it. So it does suffer quite a bit in today's high-tier gameplay because of that. And of course, the main battery guns too. She has 12 406 or 420 millimeter guns. I go with the 420s because in a brawling situation, when you do get into a brawling situation and you're, in those drive-bys, it does give you a bit more alpha for that knockout punch, and that's why I take it. If you take the 406 millimeter guns, more power to you. I hope you have fun in your GK, right? So, despite all that, I still do find myself popping into matches every now and then with the GK. And, sometimes it's a blast, sometimes it's painful. And my enjoyment level is determined by how the match goes, not if we win or if we lose. Like, winning's cool and all, and I like to win, but I also like to have fun because this is a video game. And the match you're watching in the background is a pretty good example of that. The match is an absolute just steamroll, right? Like, it's pretty clear early on that we are going to lose this. And, at first I was like, yeah, look, we got a Tirpitz with us, we got two DDs over here, we're both pushing through the cap, and then the DDs get completely wiped out. And it's like, oh, that sucks, right? So I'm going to turn around, I'm like, well, looks like we're just going to kite again, woo. And then a little hero pops up. This Gearing shows up, and he starts doing DD things in this cap. And I'm like, oh, look, we have a hero over here. So I turn around, and just with this one Gearing, playing like a team player, we managed to take the cap, we managed to do some things, and I don't want to spoil that. You can watch the background footage and see what happens. And we get another ship on our flank, the Anhalt, and we start to push through the flank and get some stuff done. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't really, alter the fate that was sealed for us once half our team was dead by the 5-minute mark, right? But we got some stuff done. I got a kill, and I had a decently enjoyable time. So it's like, okay, that kind of worked. Now, of course, too, there are matches where things do go incredibly well, and you get a crack, and you're able to get your secondaries ripping and roaring. You pop Lucian's skill to get the reload boost for your secondaries, and yeah, you have fun. But unfortunately, those matches are becoming less and less and less common. You have to have a lot of things go right for you in the GK. You either have to have a map where there's a lot of island cover, where you can, break that line of sight from the enemy teams, where you're not spotted, and you can kind of, island hop up to, your secondary range, and then start chewing the ships down once you do get into your secondary range. Or you have to have a team that actually, has the notion to play as a team, and DDs are spotting, battleships are blasting targets, cruisers are getting their DPM on, and people aren't hiding in the back because there's a little scary submarine somewhere, right? And oddly enough, GK actually is pretty decent when it comes to submarines because it's decently fast. Despite being a massive ship, the GK is surprisingly decently maneuverable. She has hydro. You have secondaries when the sub does come to the surface when it's out of battery, and of course, you have the ASW airstrike as well. So that's pretty, useful. The hydro and the ASW together. So it's kind of not a big deal when it comes to submarines. Oddly enough, with all the things that have aged poorly with this ship, it's oddly a decent submarine killer, from my experiences at least. So when things do go well, they do go well in the GK, right? But when things go poorly, you're often the first one to get farmed out. Again, because you have, massive detection range, you're a huge target, everyone wants to farm you down with HE. The CV just want to absolutely just, walk all over you with their planes. But, yeah, it is still a ship that I enjoy popping into every now and then, because there is nothing quite like just, getting into your secondary range, getting those wonderful German secondaries on target, blasting the sides of ships with your 12 guns, and then, just driving off into the sunset, right? Like, there's just something about these older brawling battleships that just either remind me of better years in the game, probably what it really is, or they just have this little bit of a different feeling of accomplishment once you do pull something off, because again, you don't have a million guns on the side of your ship. You don't have this massive concealment advantage. You don't have an incredibly high top speed. You don't have torpedoes. So when you manage to pull it off successfully, it just feels pretty darn good. That could just be the old school brawler in me talking nonsense. And don't get me wrong, I do like the new secondary ships, right? The fact that we are still even able to brawl at all with all the changes that have been constantly coming to the game, more and more CVs, more and more HE spammers, submarines, and lots of submarines now, and even more coming on the horizon with even crazier gimmicks and statistics and all that stuff. I do like those ships, and those ships are, quickly becoming some of my more played ships in the game, but there's just nothing quite like taking the GK out and just being, an absolute, ship that can smack the crap out of other ships at close range with its guns, and you have, again, the German secondaries, and you have Lucians and all that going for it. There's just nothing quite like that, in my opinion. But it is sad that, again, as time goes on, the ship is becoming less and less enjoyable. You know, super ships and all too. You have the Hanover, which is basically this but better, which I can't appreciate the Hanover for that. Oddly enough, too, Hanover, and I guess not oddly enough, but, you know, ironically, Hanover, which is, you know, basically a GK, or I guess I should say a Preußen, but bigger, one of the lesser played super ships from my experience, because it is still more that, you know, taken from that old school German bloodline than the newer like Schlieffen types brawler, right? And again, you don't see the Hanover just all that much in random battles from what I've seen, at least. But anyway, guys, my 2 cents on the GK, taking a look back at her in today's World of Warships. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful day and wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.